All right, welcome back to season 3 of our show, and today it's steak, pan fried, London broil. We're going to show you how to get this seasoned up and pan fried up, so stick around. Don't go anywhere. All right, so today's London broil. Now, first off, the reason why people call this London broil is because years ago, this is an old cut of meat, and people will put this underneath the broilers of the stove. So when you go underneath your stove, on a gas stove, you'd see a burner directly underneath, and there was a drawer that you pulled out, and they call that the broiler drawer. So they will put this cut of meat, which is top round, they will put this underneath the broiler, and hence the term London broiler. So they broiled it there, and this is why they call it a London broil, because it went inside the broiler. In America, we call it a top round, and that's what this cut of meat is today. Very inexpensive cut, and this piece of meat could be the most tenderest piece of meat if you know how to cook it, which we're showing you how to do it today. So this piece of meat's about 3 inches thick. This was the 7-pound piece of meat. I cut it in half. So I got 3.5 pounds here, and I got 3.5 pounds reserved for later on. Very easy seasoning, so we're just gonna go in with some kosher salt. Both sides, and you're going to want to put a liberal amount because this is a really big piece of meat. So we're getting a liberal amount on this. Might look like a lot of salt, but it really isn't. And we're going in with pepper, black pepper. It's a 16 mesh, so we're going to make sure we got a good amount of the black pepper on there. So this dish, as I was saying, was popular. This piece of meat was popular back in the late 60s, early 70s. And it kind of just faded away. A lot of people didn't cook it anymore. And you rarely saw it in the markets. By the time we got to the 90s, you rarely saw it in the markets. And you don't really see it now anymore unless you ask for it. Or it'll sometimes just pop up on sale. And then you got to make sure you get yourself a piece. So that's how much salt you want on there. Let's throw in some pepper. Now the reason why they don't really throw these under the broilers anymore is because nobody has a broiler hot enough to actually cook this. And a lot of the ovens now come with these broilers on the top, but they don't really get as hot as the old ovens that were gas with the broilers underneath. Now, in a lot of European countries, they still cook over fire. So you might see a lot of these cuts of meat. I'll put a little bit in the front. You might see a lot of these cuts of meat still in London, places like that. And your European countries, you'll get pieces of meat like this in Germany because they still have broilers in their house and they're still on gas powered, which is great. If you're a cook, that's what you want. You want to cook on gas because gas is a lot better to cook on than electric. All right, so we got that nice and seasoned both sides. Just rub the sides in and use everything that's on the tray. Now we're cooking this in a cast iron pan. So this pan that's over here to my left, I got Wagyu beef tallow in there. And that's beef fat. And we're gonna cook this in the beef fat, so it remains juicy, and we're using a cast iron skillet. Now you always want to use a cast iron skillet. You don't want to use a non-stick because it's going to develop the crust way too quickly and you will burn this crust. So a non-stick is great for things that are hard to develop a crust on. So if you have a piece of meat that's very difficult to develop a crust on, a non-stick is great for that. It'll get hot enough, it's very thin metal, it'll get hot enough where you could develop a crust on your meats really quickly. And that's where something like a non-stick will come in handy. A big piece of meat like this, you want to develop the crust slowly, but develop a nice crust and be able to generate enough heat into this piece of meat. And this is the only pan to do that. A piece of meat this thick. You might get away with that with a thinner cut of meat, maybe like a really thin ribeye or anything that's really thin, a ribeye or a New York strip. You can get away with that in a small pan like that. But nothing is going to hold and develop the flavor like a cast iron. Also, when I clean my cast irons, I'll clean them out with salt, kosher salt. I don't wash them. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy. I don't wash them. unless I have like fish inside these, which I never put fish in these pans because it'll hold that flavor. Nice part about putting steak in these pans and other types of meats, it'll hold that flavor in the pan. So after years of use, and that's why they say you never throw away or wash your grandmother's cast iron pans, because they have years and years and years of flavor in there, just to develop all this blackness in here. Now this pan right here, this pan has got to be probably 15 years old. And I just kept developing and developing and developing that flavor. And you'll wash it out with just salt. I'll put some kosher salt in here, I'll scrape it all out, and it just pretty much comes out and you can just wipe it clean as if you would do a non-stick. So that's how you would get all of that out of there. Just put some kosher salt in there. They also sell some scrubbers that you put on here. I don't use that. And the way to go with me, I use salt. That's the way I do that. Everybody else is a little bit different, but I use the salt. That's it. So I got my oven preheated right now to 350 degrees. That's what you're going to want to do before you do any of this. Make sure you preheat your oven at 350 degrees because we're going in the oven with this after the stove. So we're going to pan fry it in here, brown up both sides, and then right into the oven for about 10 minutes with this to cook the inside of this. And then we're going to pull it. We'll meet you right back here. Onto the stove we go. All right, in we go with this big boy. And as you put it in, I'm going to shake it back and move it away from you. Just like that. You put this in and bring it back towards you, it's got a splash. Now I got my blower on just to get out all this smoke, just to show you how hot this pan is. Now that the pan's cooling down a little bit, I can shut that blower off and show you that. So the pan's cooling down because I got this big piece of meat in here. I'm gonna brown both sides and then into the oven we go. So we'll meet you right back here, don't go anywhere. All right, we're ready to turn this. Now you can flip this as many as times to get this nice char on here. We're gonna flip it to this side and then we're gonna flip it back again on the other side. So as soon as it starts to look like this, you're gonna flip it back to the other side, and then I'm gonna flip it back to this side, back over, and in the oven we go. But you can see on the side how it starts to brown and going down towards the center of that meat. That's what you wanna see right there. All right, we're gonna meet you right back here when it's time to flip again, so stick around. Don't go anywhere. All right, time to roll this big boy over again. Make sure you don't lift it up and down. So you want to keep it to the pan, this way you don't splash it and get a good hold of that. All right, so now we're back over on that side. And we're gonna brown this side one more time and then flip it back over. This is gonna be the side that we put it in the oven on. I'll meet you right back here, don't go anywhere. All right, last flip. Gonna roll it back over again. There it is. After this last flip, in the oven it goes. But what I'll do is hold this roast up and just brown that little front part in there, the part that's thinner than everything else. Now I didn't really want to brown that because it's going to burn. So you don't want to do that. But you can see all the smoke that's coming off of this guy, and I got a really powerful blower. So you just want to make sure that you either do this outside or you got a real good blower to do this with. All right, we're going to brown this up and then we're going to meet you back here to go in the oven, so don't go anywhere. All right, so I'm just browning up the front of this, and then we're going to brown up all the sides of this. So I got the front brown this way. I'm going to put it in the side like that. That's why I said make sure you got a real good blower so it can take on that smoke. Because you're going to need it. Let's get that side browned up. I'm going to flip to the back, get that side browned up, being careful not to let it go. and just rock it. Let's do this side again. Don't let it go. Turn it over. All right. Off the heat and into the oven we go. I'm gonna let that stop smoking, and then I'm gonna go in the oven with that, because you want that to stop smoking because there's no blower in your oven. So let that stop smoking, and then into the oven she goes. Don't go anywhere. I'm at 350, into the oven we go. So take a look at that. And we'll see you in 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere. All right, just came out of the oven. It's time to get it out of the hot pan as fast as possible. And we're gonna get this onto the tray. Now we're gonna get this onto the tray, and we're gonna let this rest for about 15 minutes. So let all those juices redistribute. That's what you want. You want all that stuff to redistribute through the meat. All right, we're gonna cover this up with some aluminum foil, and I'm gonna meet you right back here, so stick around. Don't go anywhere. All right, so our steak is resting, and while it's resting, we're just gonna show you a quick vinaigrette marinade. So like I said, our steak is resting here, and I just wanna show you something very fast. If you look at the steak, while it's resting, you can see all those juices coming out of it. Now, if you look at the color of the juices, they're almost like a brownish color. They're not red, like blood coming out of that. That's the color you want to come out of there. It's almost like a brownish mahogany coming out of that steak. Now, before you cut into this and ruin it, because once you cut into the steak, it's pretty hard to put it back in the oven. It's going to dry out. So you can always notice that color in here. If you're looking at your steak, if you see a bunch of red, if it's too red, you'll know the look of the water that runs out of there, the liquid that runs out of that meat. And if it's not to your liking, you have a chance to put it back. This is why I don't probe my meats. I've been cooking for years, and I could just cook by feel. I know my times, and if you guys get good enough to the point where you know your times, you don't have to poke that meat. Because once you poke the meat, everything's gonna run out of it, and it's just as bad as cutting it to actually probe it. So a lot of the guys that run around with thermometers, you might wanna start doing this and looking at the color of the juices running out of the meat. More importantly, if you are gonna probe it, you might as well stick a probe in here and let it sit. So they sell these probes now where you can monitor the meat. You're better off putting it in. This way it cooks into the meat, and don't pull it out until the very end. And this way you don't lose all of that nice liquid that's gonna dry that meat out. Okay, onto our steak sauce we go. So right here I have a little basil. I'm gonna take this basil and we're just gonna cut it up. So it's nice and fresh. So we're just gonna pull this. This takes 2 seconds to make. So if you guys are wondering how to make a nice fresh steak sauce, this is it. So I think I'm gonna use maybe all of it. Just take it off the stem. And you always wanna use a fresh basil. Now this is growing on my balcony, and I have it in the sun. And I always have fresh basil all time of year. So I'm gonna take this, let's get it off to the side. I'm gonna bowl it up. Just like that. Or get it in the best bowl I can. And just start to cut. Just a quick rough chop. Just so you can cut it the rest of the way. And you want to go pretty fine with this because it's going in the steak sauce. Now with this you could use butter and just heat up some butter, or throw some butter in the microwave and just add some basil in there, a little salt and pepper, and you got yourself a great steak sauce. But what I like to use is balsamic vinegar and olive oil. So the balsamic vinegar and the olive oil is always my go-to, and just always use a fresh basil. All right, so we got that. Not gonna do anything with that yet. Now we're gonna go in with balsamic. Good amount of that. Just judge it out for how many people. It's about 5 people. I'm gonna go in with my olive oil, extra virgin. Pinch of salt. Just a little bit. Black pepper. Judge it out. Just a tad of that. And now we're going to give it a whisk. Bring it together. All right. Now that we brought that together, and with the basil we go. And this is such a fresh thing to have at the last second. It's always best to make this and don't let this sit around, because you want everything to be nice and fresh in there. Now you got to give it another whisk and really bring that together. If you want to put a little butter in here, you can, but I just like the combination just like this. All right, I'm going to get it out of here into a vessel, and we'll see you right back here when we're cutting into that steak, so stick around, don't go anywhere. All right, our meat's ready for carving, so let's show you what we got. Look at that. Beautiful. Now that's how you want that. Just like that. You can see all that nice juice from the top of that. And let's show you how to carve this up. So I'm using a very inexpensive knife right here, and I'm just going to show you how to hone this knife. So for those of you guys, now I bought my sister this sharpener because she's always scared about cutting herself. So you turn this on, and this is what I showed her. Just take it, both sides like that. Then it's got a finisher over here so you never hurt yourself. And just go on this side. I think like that. I think that's how you use it, but this is the finishing side right here. If you want to sharpen your knives, this is the way to go right here. So just take it in here and just like that. She loves it. I think I used this one time just to show her, and this is my second time using it, and then you're just going to wipe your knife. But I keep my knives sharp because they come factory, and then I just hone them with this. So this is the way I learned how to do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the way to test this is just gonna wipe it down, so any shavings is just to scrape this on your hand. So if you guys don't wanna do the old-fashioned way and do it this way, she's had great results with this, and that's about it. So I'm just gonna take this onto the cutting board we go. And this is how I'm gonna cut this. So my grain's going this way. I'm gonna turn it this way, and I'm just gonna go with the grain. So I'm not even gonna use that knife. I'm gonna use a longer knife that I have here. That's gonna cover the entire thing here. So this is the knife I'm using. It's a carving knife, and this will cover the entire roast. And I'm just gonna start here as thin as I can get this and slice off the first piece, because once you get it started, you're good to go. So you want to go nice and thin like that, and then just go into the rest of it nice and thin. Nice and thin, getting through all that beautiful crust. That's why the bottom of it's nice and crusty, and you'll just come through. So let's just go to do this again. And come through, you get it started, and I'll be able to cut nice and thin. But look at that. That came out beautiful. And that's how you want that. Let's just do another one. And just come down on that, like that. I'm gonna go again here. And that's it. Let's get a little pitmaster taste on that. That's perfect medium rare. Excellent. Another way to slice this, if you want to slice it on an angle like this, you can come down this way too. That's where this knife comes in handy. So if you want to start slicing that way, just come down this way. This is my favorite way to slice it. So this way you got a couple different slices. And I'm not big on using this right here. So this is my way of cutting it. I can get these things paper thin like that, and the slices aren't as big. So if you got a lot of company over, this is the way to go, because the slices, you don't have to reslice them again. You can come this way with it. And just keep it on an angle, still going against the grain, but the slices are not as big. So you can slice it that way too. Just like that. So when this rests, the rest of the juice that's here, that sat here from the resting, you want to put this in a bowl. So I'm going to get this over into the bowl like here. And don't waste that juice. Bring your bowl over like that. And now you can start getting all your meat in there. So just take your meat and re-soak it. Just like that. And stack it. So soak it, stack it. And just go in with all your meat. And make sure everything is cut. This way you don't have to cut it again during dinner. So cut it. Just like that. And just start to stack it. Just like that. Cut it, stack it. Any juice that runs from the cutting board, use up all that nice juice and put it in the bowl. This way you can cut it, stack it, and keep it neat and clean up as you go along. All right, I'm gonna finish cutting this up and stacking it. Now I'm not gonna cut the whole thing. If you're gonna have this for tomorrow, don't cut the whole thing because you'll dry it out. So just kind of follow along with it. Again, you could use this one again just to show you. And follow along with it. Get that nice and wet up again and put that right in there. And that's it. So I'm going to get the cutting on these guys and we're going to meet you right back here. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. All right, let's show you what this looks like on a plate. So we got our steak nice and sliced up. So what I like to do is I'll take a couple of slices of meat like that. And I'll just get different pieces in there. Some light, some dark. Now me, I like everything. I think I'll go in with the more rarer pieces. And I'll go in with some of the darker ones there. And I'll just mix and match little end pieces like that. I'll just put right around there, little pieces like that. This way you get every part of that steak. I like all the end pieces too, so I'm just going to park a couple of those end pieces just like that on the ends. Now let those go out like that. All right, there we go. So we got that. We made a little sweet potato. So I'm just going to plate up a little bit of the sweet potato on here. I think I'll just park them like that. And gotta have my pepperoncini. I love my peppers. So I'm going to park a couple of those pepperoncinis on the plate like that. And I feel every good meal goes great with bread. So I got my bread over here too. So I'll just park those over here and get my bread on there. And maybe a little tomato on that plate too. Just like that. I got everything balanced to go with that steak. And this is that beautiful steak sauce we made, which we can't forget that. So I'll just go in with that beautiful steak sauce. And now you have a perfect, balanced, complete meal. There you have it. Just straighten up a bit. And there it is. London broil. Served perfectly cooked. All right, we're gonna straighten up and we're gonna meet you guys right back here, so stick around. Don't go anywhere. All right, and there it is. Classic London broil, top round. Can't go wrong with this meal. Pan fried, spot on. And that's the way you guys want to cook that. We served it up with a beautiful salad and sweet potato. A classic dish with some bread. We thank you guys. We enjoyed you coming. If you like this video, give a thumbs up and a like. Until next time, I gotta get that little Pitmaster taste there.